Well, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're talking about Severance, episode 6, titled Hide and Seek. Like always, this will be a full recap of the episode. I'm going to walk you guys through it, give you guys my thoughts on everything throughout, give you guys my rating for it at the end, talk about theories, about what's going on. We had a lot of information in this episode. It's weird. The show gives us a lot, but also doesn't tell us anything at all. I'll go into that later. But if you guys enjoy videos like this, please make sure to like it. Please make sure to subscribe if you're new. But let's talk about Severance, episode 6. So right in the beginning, we see Harmony learn more information about who hacked Petey's chip. What I think is happening here is sort of pertains to the end of this episode, when the bodyguard calls Harmony towards the end and talks about how he found this girl and she's at this college and he's talking about a dean. I had no idea what he's talking about there, but it has to do with whoever hacked Petey's chip, right? That's what Harmony has him doing right now. So in the beginning, he sort of tells her that whoever hacked it came from inside Lumen. So they must have been a former Lumen employee is what I'm thinking, right? Just like how Petey was a former employee. And so after this, she hangs up. She prays to some sort of Lumen Egan shrine. There's a lot of hidden details in here. There's a little nurse band, a hospital band that you get with a name on it. It said Charlotte. I don't know if maybe that's her mother or maybe her real name or something. I'm not really sure. And then this big photo of someone who I'm guessing is another Egan, probably maybe her father, someone she looks up to, right, from the Egan family. And I think that was just put in there to show us how deep this history goes of Lumen and Egan. We see the Lumen name even in there. It looked very circusy, oldie time, maybe Lumen was used for something a long time ago and then sort of evolved into what it is now. And the opening sort of ends with just her praying to the shrine. We get the opening credits. We come back. We see that Mark's outie form has a bunch of missed phone calls from that blocked number. This will come into play later, as we'll see. But after this, we get to see Irving and Christopher Walken's character. And Christopher Walken shows him this plants room. And that's now could be their secret place, is what he says. And it looks like they're about to share a kiss before Irving sort of stops. And he says that he's not ready yet. And, Christopher Walken respects it. And that's sort of the culmination of this whole scene. Like I said, that relationship is blossoming into something. And I guess Irving just isn't ready yet. But after this, we get a really interesting scene pertaining to Mark's sister. And, she just had her baby. And she sees the other pregnant lady who we saw in the last episode, where she got coffee from. And it seems like the neighbor doesn't really recognize her anymore. It's she shouts her name. The neighbor looks at her and just sort of turns away. The sister approaches her. Looks like the neighbor sort of plays it off like she is pretending that she remembers her, but she actually doesn't. But then the neighbor's husband comes. And as we know later on, as she investigates more, he was a former senator who was very big into severance, the idea of severance. He was, he's backing. He's a big backer of the severance idea. And at this time, we didn't know who he was. He was just someone who was very smiley, sort of talking for his wife sort of guy. And, what I think is happening here, I think it's pretty simple and clear, is that he's using severance on his wife. And that's why his wife doesn't remember. That's why his wife doesn't remember the sister. I think this is a very interesting idea. There's also a little scene where it seems like the neighbor also changed her baby's name from William to something else. I forgot what the baby's name was, but that's not important. The idea is important, the fact that she changed it when she told the sister a certain name already, right? And so, it's weird because he's a senator, right? So it's sort of is Lumen connected to the politicians in a way? Probably, if this is a whole big conspiracy how we think it is. You can probably go really down a really deep rabbit hole with theories pertaining to the senator. How high does this go? Are other senators involved with Lumen and what they're doing? And in this episode, like I said in the beginning, we get thrown a lot, and it's we're getting a little bit of hints, but it's sort of empty hints. We really can't connect anything. It's sort of we get little drops here and there, but there's no way that we can really connect it to any sort of theory because we don't really have anything. It's we get such little hints. Even in this episode when we go to the big room with everyone, which I'll get to soon, and they talk about how they don't know what's going on either. They're just in the unknown, but it's important work, whatever they're doing, and they're making all these objects. It's sort of we're put in their shoes. We know that what's going on here is important, or the theory is probably gonna be crazy, but it's we have no idea. We're still in the dark, and we can't really make theories. Theories I've come up with throughout the show, it's who knows? I got no idea. It's a very different and difficult type of show to make theories for. But continuing on, we then see Mark in his severed self continue to read more of his brother-in-law's book. Quick little scene. Then we go on to him going into Harmony's office, and he asks about Miss Casey, about like where Miss Casey is, and she says that Miss Casey was put into the break room for not keeping a good enough eye on Helly, right? And now this is another example of her sort of guilting Mark, as she says that the walk that you went on with Helly is sort of the cause of why Miss Casey's in the break room, right? And we see that Mark continues to sort of feel that guilt, but then I think he just sort of shoves it away. Like maybe his past severed self before he knew everything would have really taken that to heart. But as we see, it's sort of like even after this scene, he continues to want to investigate about what's going on. He's not going to just lay down to Harmony. And even when Harmony yells at him, like literally like yells in his face about not meeting the quota and telling him, to sit at your desk, walking, taking mental health walks are banned, go to work. He sort of, he doesn't say anything to her there, but when he gets back to his coworkers, he's sort of just like, let's get back to work investigating. Let's not work on what we're supposed to actually work on with the numbers. Let's go find out what's actually going on here. So after this, all four of them, Helly, Mark, Irving, Dylan, they all agree to go to Christopher Walken's apartment. He shows them the big room that we saw in last episode, the episode before that. It's like everyone working. They say a note like this is the most people that they've ever seen, like ever. And it's funny because even the people working there, they're just like, Dylan and Mark and Irving and Helly. It's like they don't know what's going on either. They're just making stuff. And it seems like they're able to like make objects. And they say a note that it's been getting more aggressive these last couple of ones. Like they made like a hatchet. Maybe that comes into play later. But they're also in the dark. And Mark sort of uses this to his advantage by saying, let's all work together to try to figure out what's going on here. He even quotes one of the Egans saying that they're supposed to be beyond illumination or whatever. And but they're still in the dark. So it's like, why are they left in the dark when nobody else is? And before anyone could really get on board with his idea, Milchek comes and grabs the main four. And so he brings them back to Harmony. They see Harmony. She just starts singing. This is where I was just like, this is another example of like, I don't know what the hell is going on. Like even when she sings, I think it's like Chosen One Cured. And I guess that pertains to Keir Egan, who was like the Jesus type figure. And that was like a song made for him. Like, I don't know. But why did she just start singing that? Like, what's the reason, Like, and are we going to get a reason? There's so much random stuff that she says throughout this whole series. And she does. I'm just like, it has to connect. But like, how? Like, it's so weird. But after this, the bodyguard comes, escorts Mark to the break room. And, on his way to the break room, he passes by Miss Casey. He apologizes to Miss Casey. She just keeps walking. And then right before he's about to walk to the break room, we get a cool shot where we now see him in his outie self. Looks like some time has passed. His knuckles are all bruised. We sort of infer that's because of what happened in the break room, but we never actually got to see like what actually happened there. I'm guessing maybe it was some form of punishment where he had to like maybe punch a wall, or maybe they were, hammering his knuckles or something. I don't know. But we see that he's on a date with that nurse from like the first episode, right? And so they're on a date, and later on we'll talk about when they go to June's concert. But after this scene, we get to see the sister investigating the neighbor. She finds out about the senator. And then we see that Harmony is actually like a nurse babysitter for the baby now. And we see that Mark's sister has hired Harmony's outie self. As we know, like she's not severed. So like her outie self is also her severed self, like her workplace self, she's not severed. And so she's like undercover, like doing some work. Later on, she tells the bodyguard it's some sort of like private investigating that she's doing. And I wonder if it's like because of the baby that she's doing it. I always thought she was looking into this for Mark, but what if it was because like she wants the sister's baby? And it would make sense why she's, playing the nurse characters so that she can get closer to the baby. But then also like why though? Like is it a cloning thing, a testing? Is it like a Egan immortal sort of theory that's going on here? But after this, we get another really cool scene pertaining to Dylan. And for the first time ever, we get to see Dylan's outie self, right? But Milchek is there. And I guess it sort of confirms that Milchek isn't severed either, since he was in the outie self, in the outie world, playing his severed character as well. Like they're the same person, so he's not severed as well, right? And so he actually he's talking to Dylan in the outie world, but he like flips a switch in the severed self. He calls someone, and they're able to literally turn off his severed self and his outie self by a switch, like a legit actual switch, which I was very surprised of. But it's like now we have Dylan's severed self in the outie world, and he sort of like wakes up in this closet, and he's like, "What is this? Like, is this my house and everything?" That and Milchek sort of asks him about this card. I'm confused here. Anyone, please in the comments, if you can clarify what they're actually talking about with the card. It must have been something I missed, or actually, I think it is come back to me now. But I think what is most important out of this is the fact that Dylan's kid runs in, and Dylan's severed self is like, is this my kid? Like, what the hell is this? And this is huge because this is going to play into the show later on. In the next episode, when we see Dylan as a severed self, all he's going to be thinking about is that kid, and how much like he loves that kid and wants to see that kid again. So he's going to do anything that he wants from Mark or Irving. He wants to figure out what's going on here. And I think he wants to get back to that kid now that he's actually felt the hug from his own son. He wants that again. But Milchek calls someone up, says to shut off the severed self. Someone flips a switch, and then we see Dylan back in his outie self. And it's funny because like Dylan's outie self is just like, okay, like, are we done here? Like to Milchek, he's very approving of what Milchek is doing. So I'm guessing Milchek just came in and was just like, hey, I need to speak to your severed self about something important. Can we just go in the closet and do whatever? And Dylan was probably just like, all right. He's probably like a depressed guy, right? Everyone that does this severed stuff is probably dealing with some sort of trauma that they want to forget, right? So his Dylan was very well mannered. Didn't seem like he was like the funny guy, like in his severed self. And I think that was pretty funny that they're very different types of people. And he just picks up his kid and he just walks out. I thought it was a very cool scene though. I'm excited to see how Dylan's severed self reacts to now meeting his son. But now back to Mark and his outie self. He's on the date with the girl. They see that June is having a concert, so they go to June's concert. She starts singing this song that's like F.U. Lumen. Mark partakes in the F.U. Lumen chants. And I guess, now with his whole experience with PD, maybe he's not as approving of his whole Severance thing. But he still goes into work, though, which I guess, you got to pay the bills. I guess he just wants to go in. And so like after this, they talk to June for a little bit. Nothing too important here. And then the nurse kisses Mark. And I guess, now they're in an actual relationship together, maybe. But after this, we see the bodyguard show up to Harmony's house in the outie world, right? And he talks about, this is where, again, I was so confused. Like, they start, like, boom, talking about, like, this girl and this college and the dean. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? I'm like, I have no context to what they're saying. But then when you think about it, I guess it's the person that hacked PD's chip. It's that girl. And maybe it's the girl at the very end who meets up with Mark and who's calling him. Maybe, the bodyguard and Harmony are very closer to finding out who that is, closer than maybe we actually thought. So I'm guessing that's who it is, but it's a girl in college. The girl at the end didn't seem like she was in college. Maybe it's not her. Maybe there's something I'm missing. Again, in the comments, if you guys know something that I don't, please. But yeah, like in this scene, the bodyguard starts talking and Harmony starts talking back. And I'm like, what are they talking about? College, dean, this girl? I'm like, where did this come from? But after this scene ends, we see Mark put the battery back into the phone. Right away, he gets a call on the phone from the blocked number. He picks it up. It's a girl's voice asking to meet him in an hour somewhere so that Mark can better understand the situation, because that's what he wants to do. He wants to better understand what's going on here. So he meets the girl at this school. She says, are you alone? He says, yes. He says, this was a school I used to teach at. And she says, I know. And then it's sort of like, I think it's like the girl like hears something, and we also hear it as well. I can't really place what it is. And then she says like, follow me somewhere. Mark looks at her and he's about to follow her, and then it ends on a cliffhanger. I was really hoping we'd get one more piece of detail, like going to, inside the school and there's like a bunch of people maybe or something, but it just ends like that, like this giant cliffhanger. So again, it's so hard to make theories for this show, but for this episode, I'm going to give a rating of a 3.7 out of 5. I thought this episode was really good. It gave us a lot. I love the senator stuff with the sister, and props to a lot of you guys in the comments of the last week's episode. I honestly didn't think the neighbor was that important. The one where the sister talks to the neighbor with the coffee thing. I was like, what is this scene? Like, this doesn't seem important. Obviously, I should have known that every scene in the show has some sort of purpose. They don't just throw stuff in there for nothing, right? And so I'm glad to see that she plays a bigger part in this episode. And now the fact that she could be severed and that her husband's even behind her severance, I think maybe the motive is so that she could be like the best mother possible. Like when she's taking care of the baby, it's like this severed version of herself. Like she's just a mother and she's nothing else, like her only sole goal is to like take care of this baby, which was what a mother's responsibility is in general, but I'm just saying, like, what if like he just has her honed in on the baby and that's it? Like she doesn't even care about her own self, and so like maybe that's why like he severed her. But I love that, and the fact that he's a senator, there's a reason for that. It's like he's got to be like in cahoots with Lumen. Maybe this goes into like politicians being corrupt and working with Lumen, and like maybe they have more people severed than we really think. Like it could go like really big and really cool, and I hope it does. I also love the scene with Dylan, who was like severed in the outie world, and when his son hugs him, I love that scene. I think that's such a cool concept. And I'm upset that Helly doesn't play that big of a part in these last 2 episodes or whatever. I know that she just like killed herself. Like I love that whole idea of her really wanting to get out, and like now she's a lot more reserved, and she's very like not accepting of her place. Like she obviously wants to help Mark get out. She's just not as like crazy-ish, but maybe that's because she's more she's like accepted her role for right now, and she's becoming more like Mark in the idea of like, okay, like let's stay reserved in front of everyone and the bosses, and but also like sort of play around the shadows and try to figure out what's going on here. I also love that. I also loved how they got to go into the big room. These people also don't know what's going on, so it could be like this. They're rallying everyone for like some sort of big rebellion against Harmony and everyone else. The Harmony Shrine thing in the beginning, I want to know more about that, like the Egan stuff. The Egans, I love what they do with this show with the Egans, because they feel like something that's very far away and very mystical. Like it seems like they're like out of reach for us to even comprehend, like the idea of them, sort of in a way. And I think that's what they were going for. It like I said, it creates this very mystical feel around the Egans, which I like. I just want to like know already what's going to happen. And this is what, the 6 episodes? So how many episodes do we have in this show? Is it 8? Is it 10? I gotta look it up. It's probably 8. But the fact that like we have like 2 to 4 episodes maybe left in this season, how much can they really wrap up? Obviously not gonna wrap up everything, but I would love to get more of a concept about like what's going on here. And season 2 can maybe be about the rebellion and tackling this, but we got to know what's going on. Like I'm not saying I'm growing tired of being left in the dark, you know, because these characters are also in the dark, and we're building up to them finally finding out what's going on here. I just want to know already, because I can't make up theories. Like this is a show that it's hard to make theories for. Like I said, it's something that we can throw stuff out there, but for the grand scheme of things, I guess I'm still on the board of the Egans wanting immortality in a way, and Harmony maybe being like a former Egan, you know, and that's why she's very old school with like her singing and like the praying to the shrine thing. It's like she knows these characters, or I don't know. It's so hard to come up with theories. But let me know down below what you guys think of tonight's episode. Did you like it a lot? Did you not like it? Any theories, anything you guys got to say down below, anything you want me to know, comment them down below. And that's pretty much it. So like always, peace, have a great rest of the day, and I will see you all in the next video.